So I got fired from my banking job. Not for underperforming, not for slacking off, but for expressing honesty during a casual conversation with my coworker. And it offended my manager. I think you know where I'm going with this. And the crazy part, guys, almost everyone around me agreed with it. They were just too scared to say it. But I said it and I paid the price. So let's talk in detail why I got fired and why I'd do it all over again. So this story happened around November of last year. You'll see later why the dates matter. Approaching the end of work, around 30 minutes before closing, there weren't any more clients. So coworkers usually just talk amongst themselves since there's not much to do. A coworker of mine, let's call him Johnny, said to me and two other coworkers who were female that he was going to go on a Tinder date with this girl as soon as he got off work. The manager and the other girl, let's call her Maya, started asking about dating dynamics. And I think the conversation eventually landed on the question, do you pay on the first date or you split the bill 50-50? Something like that. Johnny then says, I personally split the bill because you never know what she's going to be like later on. And I nodded. Then I expressed myself saying, personally, for me, I always pay on the first date. And he asked me out of curiosity. Then I mentioned to him how, in my opinion, and I made sure he understood that it was my opinion, I think that it's the man's responsibility to insist on paying, even if she initiated the date in the first place. A lot of people have this rule that the individual who initiated the date should pay, but a woman will spend hours getting ready, freshening up, looking her best. Paying for the date, the way I see it, is a thank you gesture and gentlemanly act. Even if the date turns sour, you took that risk in choosing to go out with her. So, a small price to pay for that is paying for the day's activities. Hopefully, it didn't run you a tab, right? I also grew up in a culture where we firmly believe on traditional gender roles, where the man was the breadwinner and the woman tends to help the man spiritually and emotionally as well. Maya then looked at me and said, if you believe the man should take care of the family and lead the household, what would you like the woman to do? I said, well, to help with miscellaneous tasks, like helping around the house, running errands, anything the man needs assistance, she does. She nodded and acknowledged my comment and then asked, if your girlfriend or wife wanted to start her own business, would you support her? And I said, 100%. I want you to understand that all I'm saying is that my girl shouldn't have to work. I'd support my girl with whatever business she endeavors in because she wants to. If my girl told me she wanted to work corporate 9 to 5, I'd support her. Not only would I support, but I would do everything in my power to make sure that she gets what she wants because I care about her. But my girlfriend would never have to work because she feels obligated to. I believe that obligation and responsibility, in these regards at the very least, are entrusted to us men. This is why men are predominantly masculine and women predominantly feminine. There are certain things men can do better than women, and certain things women can do better than men. If there was a child that needed to be taken care of, I would like that child to be in a room full of women, not a room full of men. The reason why you see men nowadays who don't stand up for themselves, they don't take initiative, not just in dates, but in life in general, is because they lack responsibility. They lack purpose. Johnny and Maya agreed and nodded their head and said, yeah, that actually makes sense. My manager then stayed quiet. Fast forward 3 months later, I suddenly get a Teams message from my manager asking me to meet her in one of the office rooms. At that point, I genuinely don't know why I was being called to speak inside, but at the same time, I also did know that being privately messaged to speak privately meant something. I sat down, my manager does the whole small talk bullshit. Oh, how are you doing? How are the clients today? And I just said, just cut to the chase. What am I being called for? She then proceeds to read off a script without looking at me in the eye once, describing how she's been noticing me display inappropriate comments in the workplace numerous times, and how she documented my entire behavior and decided to report it to HR, and that I would have a meeting with them the following week. I then proceeded to tell her that this incident happened 3 months ago. You had all the time in the world to address this issue to me in private, but you only decide to address it now. Not only you addressed this 3 months later, but you decided to not confront me about it and report it without any prior warning. Where's this so-called transparent communication that corporate culture always preach about? She had a blank expression on her face. I also mentioned to her how Johnny and Maya at the time were not offended and acknowledged we were just sharing thoughts with one another. And if they were so offended, which I'm sure they weren't because I was fairly close to them, they should have come up to me about it. So where did this sudden urge to report me 3 months later come from? She then referred to the bank's policy on work safe environments and ethics. When she said that, I nodded, then walked out and continued with my day. The next week came and I had my fucking meeting with HR. Before the meeting started, the HR employee said she'd make sure both sides of each other's story would be heard. But throughout the entire meeting, the structure of her questions were not productive. Instead, they were interrogative. She asked me why I did those things, and I basically reiterated everything I said to my manager to her. But her tone insisted that the manager was right because HR doesn't protect the employees, they protect the company. I got impatient with the repetitive back and forth, then asked what would happen. And she said, well, we're going to review your case and await further steps moving forward, and we're going to make a decision. I shrugged and said, I think you've just made your decision, and I've just made mine as well. I gave my 2 weeks' notice on the spot, and that was the end of it. And when I walked out the bank, the sun was shining, birds were chirping, and I felt so relieved. I wasn't worried whether I'd find another job again or how do I cover next month's rent. All I knew was I stood firm on what I believed in, and I don't regret it until now, and I don't think I'll regret it ever. So, let me tell you why I'd do it again without hesitation. The first point is when you know you believe something was right truly in your heart, stand on it. Simply put, I 100% believed in what I said and don't think it was controversial at all. It's not like I said the Austrian painter was right and that the circumcised people deserved it. When there's something I believe that's right or wrong subjectively or objectively, I'll express it directly and politely and provide my reasons towards such. I don't just express certain viewpoints just because it's trendy. Being in a free country, to me, means disagreeing on certain opinions while still shaking hands at the end of the day. After this, after most recent events, I don't think we're really free, especially where I live in. Second point is silence breeds weakness, guys. Apologizing to them implied that they were right and that I'm compromising my own personal beliefs for them. If I were to look back at it in hindsight, I could have apologized and taken responsibility and be disciplined and still keep my job, considering this was the first time incident that happened at all with me. But if you compromise your beliefs and opinions for the sake of others, then the only compromising you're doing is your own morality. And if you compromised yourself, then who even are you? Lastly, guys, this was bigger than me. No amount of money can, no, no amount of money should take away your freedom of opinion. Let me give you an example. The mainstream media already suppresses the truth. So you, as an alternative, trust other credible sources. Produce and vegetables in grocery stores are sprayed with pesticides and are no longer fresh. So, as an alternative, you buy from local farmers. In this case, corporate culture is insulting and attacking common sense. But you're going to trust HR because they know best for you? They remind you of your birthday, but they don't remind you of your identity. They don't remind you who you are. Walking away from that job wasn't the end, it was the beginning. I chose principle over position. And while that cost me a paycheck, it brought me clarity. And if there's one thing that you guys can take away from this, is that always speak the truth, even if it shakes the room. Because comfort zones are where authenticity goes to die.